Let's go. Quadash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabayah, meaning holy, 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 Lord of hosts. And that prayer and mantra being said will expel any negative energy and remove any negative ions throughout the airways and the ether at any given time. The same equivalent to lighting sage. Yah, He, Va, He. Those four syllables can be said as a mantra for spiritual healing as well. But those four syllables signify the divine masculine, the Father who art in heaven. He, signifying the divine feminine, Mother Nature, who art in the earth, the womb, in which the first man was created from the earth, the dust, the ground, and the life, the breath of life was breathed into him, which is the ether. And back to Va. Va is their creation, And back to He, which is divine feminine as well, which is Anna Chokma, which is mother wisdom. They synchronize as a collective whole, together creating the tetragrammaton. That's why in the beginning, Elohim said, let us create them in our image. Elohim is plural. And the key words in that sentence is us and our. As above, so below. The macro prosophis above and the micro prosophis below, because we are the microorganisms, their creation, to be a light and a reflection. We are the microorganisms and the host of the Elohim. So today's topic is going to be Mystery Babylon is Fallen and all the events that go with it and all the constellations that revolve around it as well, because, our oppressors and people of the religion, which a lot of them are antichrists. Like I said before, antichrist is anybody that adds and takes away. And they tell you that God's law is done away with. God is the law. Us following the laws allows God to dwell within us in our temples, in our hosts, by us enacting the law and the laws of cause and effect, God becomes manifest in us, That is the nature of God, the law in which He created, the order of things, the nature of things, and how they are supposed to be. So anybody that tell you that the key thing that God created and talks about in the Old and New Testament is done away with, they are anti-God. And when you are anti-God, you are anti-Christ. And Christ means Christos. Christos means the anointed one. And Christ is the forerunner of who we are to be likening to, because He said He will leave to send us a comforter as the Holy Spirit, which will be the Kundalini and the Shekinah rising within us coming from our lower selves to a higher state of awareness and consciousness, because He is manifest in us and we have those attributes in which He had. That is our rapture from our lower selves to our higher self, and this is very key. Like I said, they are antichrist, they're anti-God, They only deal with the portion of the book, partiality, and took so much stuff away because they couldn't manipulate it or implement it and make it for everybody. The Bible, meaning the book, the holy scriptures or the Kodash text, is a history of the Israelites. Nine ether beings, spiritual lights. They are spiritual because everything is intuitive and God is eternal, manifest in them. And God deals with them directly, to show them the way of cause and effect and the do's and don'ts, and shows so they can show the rest of the world of how to be, so they can have longevity, prosper. And God renders judgments and salvations as well through His people. A lot of people don't know. Some people be like, "Oh, you can't judge me. You're not God." But it clearly tells you in the book of Revelation and other texts that the elect are going to be the ones doing the judgment. because thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, the Shemayim. Earth, the kingdom is here. It's within us eternally. The kingdom is Mount Chut, which is, I believe, that is the 10th Hebrew Sephiroth, and the Sephiroths are equivalent as the chakras are. The chakras are 7, but it deals with the eternal essence and energy fields in your body, your vibrational frequency. Because as above, so below. Everything that's in the cosmos is connected to nature, for the nature of things. Now let's get right into it. First, we're going to jump into the book of Jasher. Now, bear with me. I'm about to paint a picture. I got this all written out so far. So good. Now, we're going to jump into the book of Jasher right here. We're going to talk about the serpent and how the serpent deals with a constellation and also a draconian reptilian. I'm going to just read this like this. All right. And God, this is the book of Jasher, chapter 1. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And God created man in his image. And God formed man from the ground, which is the earth, and the womb, the divine feminine, and the nature of things, and blew into his nostrils the breath of life, which we know out of the 9 ether book right here tells you, all the definitions of breath and how the breath is ether, the energy state of things, And it says, and God formed man from the ground and blew into his nostrils and the breath of life, and man became a living soul, endowed with speech. And the Lord said, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make unto him a helpmate. And the Lord caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took away one of his ribs, and he built flesh upon it, and formed it, and brought it to Adam. And Adam awoke from his sleep, and behold, a woman was standing before him. That's why they always say woman is the backbone to man, because of the rib. And he said, this is a bone of my bone, and it shall be called woman, for this has been taken from man. And Adam called her name Eve, for she was the mother of all living. See how this is in the book of Jasher, but in the book of Genesis, which in Hebrew is Bereshith, which means in the beginning, but Genesis is also translated the genealogy of Isis, and when you go into, Nunakai, Texas, it tells you, Eve would be Nitzmi, and Atom would be Enki, and the word Isis would mean a set, and I was telling you about Planet 9 before, Nibiru, and the 9 ether beings of, that planet, and how they correlate with the 24 elders and the collective whole of things. But let's get back into this. And it says, and God blessed them and called their names Adam and Eve. And in the day that he created them, the Lord God said, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. And the Lord God took Adam and his wife, and he placed them in the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And he commanded them and said unto them, from every tree of this garden ye may eat, but from the tree of knowledge of good and evil ye shall not eat. For this is the day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die. Basically telling them that their lifespans will be cut a lot shorter, which was because they used to live for hundreds and hundreds of years at that time. So the lifespans got shorter to modern day and age, where we only, you only see people maximum living to, 90s, very few into the early hundreds, but, Back then in ancient times, it wasn't like that. And when God had blessed and commanded them, he went from them, and Adam and his wife dwelt in the garden according to the command which the Lord had commanded them. And the serpent, oh, here we go with this serpent. And the serpent, and I'm going to break that down out of Apocalypse Abraham, that this serpent is a draconian reptilian, because most people, when they hear the serpent, they just think of just a plain talking snake, you know. And most people think that when they tell you that tree, they tell you about an apple, forbidden fruit. We're going to prove that that wasn't an apple and how it was a grapevine. But let's go on. And the serpent which God had created with them in the earth, and came to them to incite them to transgress the command of God which he had commanded them. And the serpent enticed and persuaded the woman, you know, whispering and hissing, you know, to eat from the tree of knowledge. And the woman hearkened to the voice of the serpent, and she transgressed the word of God, and took from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and she ate, and she took from it, and gave also to her husband, and he ate, you know. All right, you see what that says right there. All right, and this is out of the book of Jasher. Now, let's jump into the Apocalypse of Abraham. What does it say in there? You know, right here. All right, here we go. Let's see. A vision of sin and paradise, the mirror of the world. And he said to me, look now beneath thy feet at the firmament, and understand the creation, foreshadowing, and the expanse, the creatures existing on it, and the age prepared according to it. And he said, all right, the surface of the feet, and I saw beneath the sixth heaven what was therein, and then the earth and its fruits, and what moved upon it, and its animate begins, and the power of its men, and the ungodliness of their souls, and their righteous deeds, in the beginning of their works, and the lower region, and the perdition therein, and the best and its torments. I saw there the sea, and its islands, and its monsters, and fishes, and Leviathan, and his dominion, and his camping ground, and his cave, and the world which lay upon him. And you know, we heard about these inner earth beings, because another brother, Big Judah, he's been going on and on about this, you know. As I say, every Israelite, spiritual light, non-ether being is playing their part, you know. Some have different abilities than others, and they're touching on different topics, you know. They're not doing what these camps you see in the street is doing, you know, with the same old same. You know, this knowledge is expanding beyond that, because you know everything deals in duality, so it's two sides to everything. There's a esoteric version, inward parts, intuitive, you know, eternal, and then you have an exoteric, external, you know, physical meaning of things, you know. And you know, just like they connect precepts and allow them to answer themselves, this is how God is vast countenance. There's multiple books that if you read them with your spiritual eye, your third eye open, your intuitiveness, you know, you can connect the dots on a mass scale. So it says the world on his account. And I saw their stream, and the rising of their waters, and their windings. And I saw there the garden of Eden and its fruits, and the source of the stream issuing from it, and its trees and their bloom, and those who behave righteously. And I saw therein their food and blessedness. And I saw there a great multitude of men and women and children, half of them on the right side of the picture, and half of them on the left side of the picture. So this is as he's up in heaven. He's basically seeing a 3D picture of the world and creation in before time and in the end of time, because time, space, and matter is different there. So he could see everything in 3D, slow motion, how all these events transpire, and bear witness to them. Now, it says right here, the fall of man and the sequel. This is when it breaks down what this serpent really is. Let's get to it. I said, O eternal, mighty one, what is this picture of creatures? And he said to me, this is my will with regard to those who exist in the divine world council, and it seems well pleasing before my sight. And then afterwards I gave commandment to them through my word, and it came to pass whatever I had determined to be was already planned beforehand in this picture, and it stood before me it was created as thou hast seen. And I said, O Lord, mighty and eternal, who are the people in this picture on this side and on that? And he said to me, these which are on the left side are the multitude of the peoples which have formerly been in existence, and which are after the demise, the destined, some for judgment and restoration, and others for vengeance and destruction. Just like it says in the law, it's a time for peace and it's a time for war. Everybody plays a part in this whole thing. He said, at the end of the world, the end of the world, the end of the age. But these which are on the right side of the picture, they are the people set apart for me of the peoples with Azazel. These are they whom I ordained to be born of thee. Basically talking about Abraham, his descendants, and to be called my people. Now look again in the picture. Who it is who seduced Eve, and what is the fruit of the tree? And thou wilt know what there shall be, and how it shall be to thy seed amongst the people at the end of the days of the age. And we about to see that in Matthew 24 too. And so far as thou canst not understand, I will make known to thee, for thou art well pleasing in my sight, and I will tell thee what is kept in my heart. And I looked into the picture, and my eyes ran to the side of the Garden of Eden. I saw there a man very great in height and fearful in breadth, incomparable in aspect. This is why these Anunnaki and Nunnakas, they are all very tall. So this would make sense, Embracing a woman who likewise approximated to the aspect and shape of the man, his counterpart. And they were standing under a tree of the Garden of Eden. Now here it goes. And the fruit of this tree was like the appearance of a bunch of grapes of the vine. Let's say that again. The Garden of Eden, and the fruit of this tree was like the appearance of a bunch of grapevines. That's why when you go on wine and spirits in these stores, they have wines called forbidden fruit. Now here we go. But that doesn't mean that the grapes are forbidden, but at this point, this is what it's saying. And and behind the tree was standing as it were a serpent in form. It was standing. This wasn't a serpent on its belly. The serpent was standing. Now listen to this. He said, and behind the tree was standing as it were a serpent in form, having hands and feet like a man's, and wings on its shoulders, 6 on the right side and 6 on the left. Now, what is that? What is the opposite of a 9 ether? It would be a 6 ether. You know, the angel number 999, what would be the opposing force? 6, you know? And because 6 is an upside down 9. It's the complete opposite. You know, 9 ether complements the spirituality, divine essence of the creator. 6 ether is considered spiritual death, the opposing force, the 666, the beast, the system of mankind, those in high and wicked places, principalities and rulers of the darkness. In current day, those who are in power now, and look what they look like. It makes sense. 6 ether would be Edomites, creating a spiritual death. 9 ether would be Israelites, spiritual lights, you know, the light to the world and the creation. But those who are at the bottom right now, but this is going to tell you why. And they were holding the grapes of the tree in their hands, and both were eating it, whom I had seen embraces. And I said, who are these mutually embracing, or who is this? Who is between them, or what is the fruit which they are eating? Almighty Eternal One, saying eternal, inward, within me. And he said, this is the human world. This is Adam, and this is their desire upon the earth. This is Eve. But he who is between them representeth ungodliness. This serpent being that has hands and feet, basically in humanoid form, but he is a serpent, which is a reptilian. And where the reptilians come from which we know, the Draco constellation. But we about to get into that too. It's about to break that down. You know, I'm pull that out the Bible, because I was looking up all these definitions of different constellations in the Bible, and I was taking them from the names of the Bible and what do they mean in modern day. And it basically said one of these ones, it said from the Draco constellation. And when I looked at the definition, it correlated with the serpent. But watch this. He said, in between the represented ungodliness, their beginning on the way to perdition, even Azazel. And I said, O eternal, mighty one, why hast thou given to such power to destroy the generation of men and their works upon the earth? And he said to me, they who will to do evil, and how much I hated it, and those who do it, over them I gave him power, and to be beloved of them, you know. And I answered and said, O eternal, mighty one, wherefore hast thou willed to effect that evil should be desired in the hearts of men, since thou indeed art angered over that which was willed by thee at him who is doing what is unprofitable in thy counsel? And he said to me, being angered at the nations on thy account and on the account of the people of thy family, talking about Abraham's bloodline, the children of Shem, which we know out of the Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon. It tells you on the planetary chart, it says the sun is Shemesh. Basically, when you put Shem and Shemesh together, you get the children of light, you know? And he said, on the account of the people of thy family who are to be separated after thee, as thou seest in the picture, the burden of destiny that is laid upon them. And I will tell, it's a burden, because this is destiny. They're going to have to go through these things to know some things, you know. They're going to be taken from the head and be made to tail. You know, they're going to go through that 400 years and be descendants in a foreign land. But we're about to get into that in a minute too. And he said, and I will tell thee what shall be and how much shall be in the last days. Look now at everything in the picture. And I looked and saw there what was before me in creation. I saw Adam and Eve in existence within him, and with them the cunning adversary. All right, now that's what that said. Now let's jump into Genesis 15. Let's get to it. Let's go right to Genesis 15. Come on, Genesis 15. Come on, Generations of Isis. Come on, Bereshith. In the beginning, let's go to the beginning of time. I'm about to paint a picture for y'all. Genesis 15. Hold up. All right, Genesis 15. And it says, hold on. What is it? All right. Genesis 15 and 13. It says, Then the Lord said to Abraham, You can be assured that your descendants will be strangers in a foreign land, where they will be oppressed as slaves for 400 years. But I will punish the nation that enslaves them, and in the end, they will come away with great wealth. As for you, you will die in peace and be buried at a ripe old age. After 4 generations, which is 400 years, your descendants will return here to this land. For the sins of the Amorites, the 6 ether beings, Amorites, Americas, do not yet warrant their destruction. Now let's go into this 400 years. On an actual, historical record level, this has been tracked from 1619 to 2019, when the H.R. 40 bill was passed, of African Americans being in this nation as America for 400 years under their rule, And remember what I told you about the number 9. After the number 9, things reset. 1619, 2019. Remember I told you about how the constellations are on 19-degree angles based upon what the brother 19 Keys said, and how the Hebrew characters are symbolic to star constellations. All right. So 1619, 2019. Now we're going to get into this event of this great tribulation, and how it correlates with this time frame, 1619, 2019. Well, how these events really started happening in 2017 with the first eclipse. Remember, I told you in the 6th and 7th book that eclipse is an omen of doom. In the 6th and 7th book of Moses to talk about this, and how another eclipse is coming in 2024 from the opposite direction, which is going to create an X across this land. X marks the spot. And planet number 9 is called Planet X, which has a geomagnetic pull, which they call the red sun, which they said will enter the atmosphere in 2017 in September, around the same time where the Revelation 12 constellation took place. That's why these constellations are important. But let's get back to this. We have the 1619, 2019 H.R. 40 bill was enacted. Now, let's go. Matthew 24. So now we're going to get into all the events that's going to be happening in this 7-year period. So I marked the start of it at 2017 because in August of 2017, you had that eclipse. In the next month, September of 2017, you had that Revelation 12 constellation. And then in October 2017, the mysterious space rock Oumuamua came into the atmosphere. 3 events. You will know by the signs and the wonders. Those that are spiritually woke is going to know these things. They're going to watch the signs. Now, let's go to Matthew 24. Now, let's get to Matthew 24. Now, let's get through this. I want this lesson to be shorter, but I got to break it down how I got to break it down. And it says, Jesus spake about the future. As Jesus was leaving the temple ground, his disciples pointed out to him the various temple buildings, but he responded, Do you see all these buildings? Tell you the truth, they will be completely demolished. Not one stone will be left on top of another. Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives. his disciples came to him privately and said, "Tell us, when will all this happen? What signs will signal your return and the end of the world, the end of the age?" As we just read another book that we just went through. The end of the age. So it's never really the end of the world. It means the end of a cycle, a period of time. The planet always resets itself. You know, you have destruction and you have rebirth, just like with this we just was under a 5-planet alignment a couple days ago, and we also have a pink moon coming, which signifies, people that are in the spiritual world and know these things, it means a rebirth. It means a resetting period, which we are seeing right now in the Hebrew New Year, or in some it's I'm not sure if it's still Passover, but we're in that time frame. But all these events is happening. But let's stick to the script of what we was talking about. Matthew 24. Jesus told them, "Don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah. They will deceive many, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars." What are we seeing all over the TV? Ukraine and Russia. You got them keep threatening Iran over the Syria conflict. You got them telling them North Korea they can't keep going on with their nuclear program. You got China on the possibility of invading Taiwan, and going back and forth with Australia. You will hear of wars, but this is multiple conflict all happening at once right now in this 7-year period. We're in 2023 now. Remember I said I marked it for 2017, 2024 when that next eclipse happened. These are the events that are taking place in this time period. The 7-year cycle, every 7 years is considered a Jubilee cycle. You'll learn that in the book of Jubilees. Another book that was adding and taken away, which they took away, because once you read these other books, you can connect the dots better. And the Bible also gives references of them. And it says, you will hear wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nations will go to war against nations and kingdoms against kingdoms. There will be famines and earthquakes in diverse places of the world. But all this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. Now let's look at what the diverse places mean. Diverse places, it means key takeaways. Diversity is the variation within a population and their characteristics, background, and behavior. Diverse places are variations in an area or location, meaning things that don't normally happen in a certain place are going to happen. Places that don't normally get tornadoes and certain weather, that's what a pole shift is. That's what they call global warming. That means that everything resets. The poles shift, and this is what caused earthquakes to happen in diverse places, meaning weather to happen in places it doesn't normally happen. What did we just see yesterday? They said, was it 31 tornadoes across 9 states? Look at all these people that died. This is Mother Nature. This is the divine feminine at its best, And what we read in the Zohar and in the Kabbalah, it tells you about the left side being the divine feminine, and she brings judgments. So when you see these elements of nature happening, just know it's coming from the divine feminine. That means the judgment is being rendered. Now, let's get back to this. It says, the day is coming when you will see what Daniel the prophet spoke about in the sacrilegious object that causes the desecration standing in the holy places. Now, what does sacrilegious mean? It means, sacrilegious, violation or misuse of something regarded as sacred. So when they stole people heritage and all these things that they tell you is bad, tapping into nature and being in tune with it, and being able to perform things that other people can't, to where as though that they got to call you a savage and everything under the sun that's bad, to make people shun upon you and frown upon you in a certain way. Like King Solomon said, it's nothing new under the sun. That's why I embrace these things in full throttle. And since I have, I've been surely blessed. I promise you that. I got everything I could ever want and imagine at this point in my life, and I didn't always have, but I have it now, The more I start becoming in tune, and nothing I do is for money. I don't make these videos for money. I never ask people for money. I don't do none of that, But God has blessed me. Once you give, you will receive, and it always will come back tenfold. It's not given to a congregation, a building, or church. It's called giving alms. You give in to those in need because you are put here to implement the law, the nature of things, the nature of God within you to bring balance on this planet. That is how you implement the law, And as it says in Matthew 24, it basically tells you. All right, now watch this. It tells you, how terrible will it be for pregnant women, for nursing mothers in those days, and pray that your flight will not be in the winter or on the Sabbath. He says, for there will be greater anguish than at any time since the world began, and it will never be so great again. In fact, unless the time of calamity is shortened, not a single person will survive, but it will be shortened for the sake of God's elect. In this translation, it says chosen ones, So it's basically telling you. Now remember what it just said. It says, and pray that your flight will not be in the winter or on the Sabbath. Now we about to jump back into the apocalypse of Abraham. See, we're going to jump back and forth. Now this is about to break down all the events that happened within this 7-year period. All right, let's make sure we still on. Good. Salah, so big. And right here, it says, all right, let's start right here. It says, before the age of righteousness, righteous beginneth to grow. So basically it means this is the spiritual rebirth. My judgment shall come upon the lawless heathen, the sixth ether being, through the people and all those that are connected with them, or follow their way, their ideology, and their system, and worship the creature more than the creator. It says, before the age of the righteous beginneth to grow. So this means the rebirth. My judgment shall come upon the lawless heathen through the people of thy seed. Now he's talking about his elect, I told you, who have been separated from me. They've been taken away from their true spirituality. But this is the restoration period where all the knowledge that's been hidden, the elect ones is bringing it back out. And it's bringing eternal damnation to the powers that be, because this is the stuff that they try to hide from you. They try to keep you at that low state of vibration so it would never come back to the surface. They've been created a new world order, but God is bringing a divine intervention and restoring his people. He said, my judgment shall come upon the lawless heathen through the people of thy seed who have been separated from me. How have they been separated? Because the people that add and take away, those that tell you that the law is done away with, those that, they got you worshiping the creature more than the creator, It's deep, but it's real. He said, in those days I will bring upon all creatures of the earth 10 plagues. Oh, here we go. Through misfortune and disease and sighing of the grief of their soul. That's eternal damnation. That's hell on earth. Thus much will I bring upon the generations of men that be upon it on account of the provocations of the corruption of its creatures. Who is corrupting the planet? Who is making everything, taking it from a natural state to a diluted state, a poisoned state, GMOing, artificial flavoring, making everything fake again, Like Trump said, let's make America great again. These people is making everything fake again, because it was natural before. So their new world, they make everything fake because they are low vibrate. They are spiritual death. Everything about them is to kill, steal, and destroy. So if they can give you products and stuff, to alter your DNA and your so you can't take care of your temple where the Most High dwells at, by giving you these things. He gave you, that's why he said in Revelation, take heed in the herbs of the earth for the healings of the nation. He gave you every plant and herb. That's why a lot of these things they tell you it's forbidden. You can't buy it. It's against the law, or they won't even tell you. Doctors don't never give you herbal solutions. They always give you something, that'll cover up the underlying condition at that given time, but never fully cure it, And the people that was able to cure these things, they just mysteriously ended up dying or misfortune happened. But in this day and age and time, all the curses is being reversed and recompense is coming on their head tenfold. There's no way around it, and I rebuke them in the most high, in the most Kodesh Hashem. Amen. Ta Salah. So be it. Now, let's get to it. It says, corruption of his creatures, whereby they provoke me, and and then shall righteous men of thy seed be left in the number which is kept secret in me, hasten in the glory of my name to the place prepared beforehand for them, which thou sawest devastated in the picture. Restoration. And he says, they shall destroy those who have destroyed them. What does it say in the Bible? Thee that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Thee that killeth with the sword shall be killed with the sword. This is what, a lot of some 6 ether beings even came out and admitted to. He's like, this is what they fear the most, that these people will do to them what they did, do to us what they did to them, Because guess what? That's galactic karma. That's the law. That's the balance in nature, You get what you dish. You give, you will receive. But look what it says here. They shall destroy those who have destroyed them, and shall insult those, not be nice to, insult those who have insulted them. And of those who defame them, basically degraded them, assassinated their character, made all these things lie, made them so bad in the media. Guess what? Defame them, they shall spit in the face and scorned by me. So now all this stuff is going to happen because God says it's time for peace and it's time for war. So guess what? They're going to be justified by God. Those that have a conscience and prudent, good judgment and common sense. That don't mean you're just going to be out here being reckless and doing this, and that. But you're going to know when it's time, when it's go time. You will know. He said, while they, the righteous, shall behold me full of joy, rejoicing with my people and receiving those who return to me in repentance. Now watch this. This is the 10 plagues. And he said to me, what is desired in thine heart? He said, what is desired in thy heart? I will tell thee, because thou hast sought to see the 10 plagues which I had prepared for the heathen. Who is the heathen? Didn't they call the Indians when they came over here? Those other 9 ether beings, the other tribes that were already here, That's why he won't really give you reparations, And that's a whole nother topic and lesson for a later date because, I'm so open-minded. I done went through every case scenario, historical record of how to connect the dots. Well, if the Holy Lands was over here or if they was over there, when the continents was connected, And then I realized that everything is in reverse because the truth is really stranger than fiction. Now let's get back to these 10 plagues. To see the 10 plagues which I had prepared for the heathen, the 6 ethers, and had prepared. 6 ethers means spiritual death, which biblically would be called Edomites, and had prepared beforehand at the passing over of the 12th hour of the earth. And when I read this, I looked up who are the angels of the 12th hour out of the greater and lesser keys of Solomon, But, I didn't have time to implement all that in here, but everything connects, when you got all the books at your disposal. Hear what I divulge to thee, so shall it come to pass. The first plague. The first is pain of great distress. What does distress mean? Urgent trouble. It says urgent trouble that must be resolved immediately. So the first one is pain and great distress. The section is conflagration of many cities. What does conflagration mean? It says an extensive fire which destroys a great deal of land or property. Why you think you're seeing all these wildfires going rapid, all in the 7-year period? It's all happening now in real time. If you pay attention to the news, current events, and half of the stuff they ain't even gonna put out there like that because they don't want you to know. Because where one thing is happening, something else is happening in another place, and they all getting hit all around the same time, So it's coverage here about this, but what's not happening here is happening there. And so all these events is taking place, they all might not be happening in one area, but they're happening in, smaller areas here, there, and everywhere. At least one of these 10 plagues, all in this 7-year period. And it tells you conflagration, it means an extensive fire which destroys a great deal of land and property. Let's make sure we still on. All right, and property. That is the second. Conflagration of many cities. The third is destruction and pestilence of animals. What does pestilence mean? A fatal epidemic and disease, especially bubonic plague. So it means a fatal epidemic disease. And we've seen that, but we're going to get on to that because this is talking about animals. So the third one is the destruction and pestilence of animals. The fourth is hunger of the whole world and of its people. That's why these stores and shelves is getting cleared out. Anything that produces a natural source, that's why they raiding Amish farms. That's why you see all these farms and supermarkets going up in flames, just like the conflagration. Pay attention, y'all. Now, that was the fourth one. The fifth one is the destruction amongst rulers, destruction by earthquakes and the sword. Remember what we just read in Matthew 24. You hear wars, rumors of wars, nations rising against nations, then famines and earthquakes. That's what it's saying right here in the 10 plagues. Remember what we said, earthquakes in diverse places, meaning weather in places that don't normally happen. That means Mother Nature is intervening. The judgment render, the left side. And it says the sixth one is multiplication of hail and snow. So this is another weather event, meaning diversity. That's why you see in Mexico them big hail balls and all this tropical, what do they call that, hurricanes. And you see places like Virginia, freezing up the whole turnpike, and places where it's normally hot at, you seeing now you seeing Southern California be getting hit with almost 6 to 8 feet of snow, where they don't never really ever get snow. But this is the earthquakes in diverse places, weather in places that don't normally happen, all happening in this 7-year period. The seventh is wild beasts will be their graves. Why is wild beasts will be their graves? Because they're cutting all the natural habitats down. So these animals that you didn't even think exist anymore don't have nowhere else to hide. So guess what? If you take all their natural resources away from you, what they gonna do? They gonna come and eat your ass. Salah, so be it. The eighth one is hunger and pestilence will alternate with their destruction. So if you're not, being destroyed from lack of food and nutrients, the pestilence is going to get you now. And what's pestilence? It says a fatal epidemic disease, which is a plague. What did we have, in 2019? Remember I told you about